the red. Let me check my game boost. Then again, it's the first time I'm recording this with this headset inside my kitchen. So the mic is probably more sensitive. There's probably a bit more of. I've noticed that in the past that things seem to be louder down here than whatnot. So if you hear any extra noise, that is actually just me making a cup of tea. Sorry, folks. I'm still under the weather, and I messed up my health even more so after over the course of last night while attending the Star Wars The Last Jedi launch party with the guys from Ludosport. But for those of you that are subscribers and that have watched it, you just know what I'm referring to. So, this is my. Dear God, it keeps going into the red. Like, what the hell? Why is it so sensitive? The mic is literally a good distance away from my face, and yeah, occasionally when I look at to see the mic thing, it's jumping up into the red. Voice boost is off. So I have no idea what's going on there. But anyway, this is my review of Star Wars Last Jedi. Now, there is spoilers. I'm letting you know that now. Well, as I said, I'm sick. I'm about to mess up my throat even more. I did. Oh, this is why you have to be very careful when you decide to, do something despite when you're not feeling well. But anyway, the event was absolutely amazing. There was the Emerald Garrison. There was all my friends from Ludosport. We did some demonstrations. We handed out. I wasn't counting, but we printed about 500 pamphlets, and we handed them out. We got about through half of them, I believe. An exact number I cannot give, but that happens. But anyway. So, Last Jedi. Going into it. Oh, I'm just going to move my mic a little bit further away. Because again, guys, I don't want it going into the red. Hold on. There we go. How's that now? Seems to be a bit under controlled, but I don't know what's going on. Again, maybe it's the extra space that I have down here and the fact that it's wood and tiles. So, maybe it's echoing. I don't know, but something's happening that's making my mic constantly jump into the red, which it normally doesn't do. It will jump in once or twice when I'm in my bedroom, but never as this often. Anyway, so Last Jedi. I went into the cinema trying to keep an open mind, because they went too close to New Hope with Force Awakens. Then Rogue One came out, and my faith in a Disney-produced Star Wars film was restored. There were some moments that had me worried. For example, it seemed to me at first, because of the trailer and because of the start of the movie, I actually assumed they were going very much Empire Strikes Back at the start of the movie, where Okay. Again, folks. Again, spoiler warning. Once again, I'm gonna say spoiler warning again one more time, and then I'm gonna wait 10 seconds. Actually, no, I'll talk about the general movie first. Then I'll do the in detail section later. Overall, amazing movie. Overall, just it's an absolutely amazing movie. Visually it looks stunning. The effects were brilliant. Plot. Okay, I'll try and rate everything out of 10. Visually, 10. Effects, about a 9 or a 9.5. I feel like there could have been a bit more stuff done. Cast. 9. We got about one new character. Sorry, two. Was it two characters? No, it was three. We got a potential 3 new permanent cast members. In the form of an engineer, an admiral, and a hacker. Now, locations. I would have to say an 8. There wasn't that many new locations. Plot, I'll have to say a 9.5. There were some moments where how should I put it? There were some moments where they could have done a bit better with the story. Like from what I heard, even Mark Hamill wasn't all too thrilled about it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, and I can see why he was not thrilled about it. And I feel like they could have built some stuff up a bit more if they handled it a little differently. So that's my terms on the plot. And in terms of the locations, they were brilliant. The movie had one, two, three, had about 3 new locations, and we got to discover a bit about like where there seemed to be sort of going with this movie. And the movie does a good job of not just now we do occasionally bounce between locations, but that's to be expected with a Star Wars movie. In a Star Wars movie, like it's even in the action sequences in a Star Wars movie, we tend to bounce between the action shown because like it's basically the same story, but we're seeing it from different characters' perspectives. Like it's always generally the same scenario. Sorry, it's always the same battle, but then we bounce between the different characters' point of views of that battle. For example, would be Phantom Menace. We had about 4 things going on in Phantom Menace's final moments. Again, as I said, folks, I am actually not well. I'm going to try and take some of this tea if it's not too hot. Oh, it's a little too hot. Now, we had about 4 jumps throughout, well, not throughout, 4 stories that we were jumping between in Phantom Menace. Now, what they could have done with Phantom Menace was focus on one and then do the other, but that wouldn't. It kept us interested in every character situation except maybe the Gungans. Because we had the Gungans battle with their distraction. We then had Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. We had Padme's, just trying to seize the throne room. And then we had the space battle, which then involved little Anakin. So, like this, Star Wars is no stranger to having us bounce around. Like even the original trilogy did that a lot, especially when the group splits up. Like for A New Hope, we didn't get it as much, and that was because for the most part they were always together. But then when Han and Chewie went after one stormtrooper, sorry, no, before then, when Obi-Wan split off from the group, we got glimpses of him, what he was doing in the Death Star. Then we went back to Luke and Han, and then eventually we saw 3 points of views: Obi-Wan's, Luke and Leia's, and then Han and Chewie. So it gives us this dynamic of they're all working towards the same goal, but we're getting to see their missions at the different time. We got that with this movie as well. It was four sort of stories taking place under the same dire situation, with the exception of Rey's. But there was some interesting stuff going on with Rey, and it kept us interested in her. So, let's see, we're about the 11-minute mark. What else can I rate on? Music, absolutely amazing, 10, but that's to be expected the way a Star Wars movie. The music, it's very rare for the music to not succeed what it sets out to do with a Star Wars movie. It's very rare. So I shouldn't be too surprised. Now, this is your spoiler alert now. I will not give out another one after this point, folks. I'll be going now in detail over certain events within the movie and how I feel about them. So, your 10-second spoiler warning starts. Oh, I dropped something. Your spoiler warning starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, for those of you that stuck around after 10 seconds, after I gave you the spoiler warning, into detail. Now, first scene is generally what you would expect from a Star Wars movie. You get the space letters, and then they drop down onto the planet that is going to be our opening scene. We saw a rebel base, and this was one of the initial worries that it actually had me thinking of Empire Strikes Back. And I was sitting in the cinema. I remember sitting in my chair, and I was like, "Oh God, are they actually? Am I wrong? Are they going to pull a Force Awakens, relying on the nostalgia?" They didn't. Thank God. So the rebels are actually already evacuated. There was no battle. The Empire arrives at the rebel base. No battle takes place except for some really cool, dynamic piloting skills from Poe. Oh God damn! Maybe I should have had a lens sip, but then again, it's too early for a second one. What did I take my first? Need some. Actually, I could have actually had one. Well, technically, actually, no, it's still another hour until I can take my nearest one. Maybe I should have waited for an hour for this video. But, oh well. But anyway. Now, as I was saying, Paul, who's clearly a Force sensitive, does some really cool stuff. We got some entertaining moments with BB-8. He does something really epic. This is the spoiler section of the review, but I still want you to go see the movie. I highly recommend it. So, He does an impossible task, you know, but it shows his arrogance. Like it shows that he's not the perfect character, and to me that was a good thing. He's not your typical soldier. We also get a sense of how dire the resistance actually is. Like from Force Awakens, we get the impression that the resistance is stronger than what it is. And this opening scene shows that the resistance is not as powerful as Force Awakens implied them to be. Yes, they have some ships, but that's it. Now, the rebels are quickly put to, sorry, the resistance. So they're not the rebels, they're resistance. Then again, since the Republic is gone, technically I suppose they are rebels now. But the resistance is put into dire straits as they're now retreating from this. The Empire unveil some new technology, such as they can now track ships through light speed. So they show up they track them through light speed, and then begins the main focus of this movie. No, sorry, second focus of this movie. The main focus is Kylo and Ren's relationship. Now, the Resistance fleet can't go to lights because then they will use up all their fuel, and the Empire's going to track them anyway. But so all they can do is stay just ahead out of their range, as they try and come up with a plan. Now Finn and Poe come up with a plan. They set off to carry it out. Now I'm going to get into that later on. Right now we're going back to Rey. Sorry guys, I know I'm coughing a lot or clearing my throat a lot. Again, I'm sorry. It's just all about. But I made a promise to myself that I'll do a video every single day, and as a repayment for missing out on doing so many videos. Despite the fact that I said I'll do them, even if it meant recording them on my phone, I did not do that. I broke that promise. This is my atonement. But anyway, so Rey's training thing. I was a bit worried that we were going to get like a Yoda situation when Luke and Empire Strikes Back. Did not go that way. Rey had her own challenge. She had her own dark cave, but it wasn't what you thought it would be. There's plenty of surprises throughout this movie, and I was not expecting any of them. We did not see, despite the Luke's ship was actually submerged. You get to see that, but you don't actually see her. There's no raising it from the water. Hell, we don't even see Luke raising it from the water. And again, they could have went for the nostalgia and have either of them raise it from the water. They didn't. Sorry. Han and Chewie are reunited. It's a good reunion, and Luke reacts to the news that Han's dead. Now, Mark Hamill had his own thoughts on how the whole Han Solo death should have gone down. Mark Hamill's not happy with Disney. He's not. I've seen interviews with him, and he's clearly upset with Disney and their approach to Star Wars. But see, the thing is, Mark Hamill is loyal to Star Wars, and that's why I think, regardless of his own feelings, but at the end of the movie, I feel like his feelings at the end of the movie, what happens to Luke is either because Mark Hamill wanted it to happen so he can get out of Star Wars, or he's going to keep coming back to Star Wars because he's loyal. But the thing is, though, loyalty can only get you so far. Because again, it seems to be really bothering him with the way they're taking some stuff. Like he's even addressed saying that like he hopes that Disney will keep with their promise by keeping George Lucas as a consultant and actually listening to his suggestions, but he believes that is not the case. He believes that George Lucas is making suggestions and they're simply ignoring it, not even consulting it. So that's how Mark Hamill feels. And again, there are videos where, and again, this is not me reading an interview. This was me. I found this out today by watching some of his interviews. So he's not happy. He actually hates Last Jedi. Mark Hamill came out and said he is not happy how Last Jedi came out. He's not happy with his role in it at all, and he's not happy with Disney in general. So, but yeah, still he kept to the job. He finished the movie. I think he's still going to be around because he doesn't strike me as an actor who, just because he doesn't like a role, he's not going to take it. Especially if it's in a universe if it's set in a universe that he clearly cares about, and he cares about his fans. This is why he's upset. Like, he admits that financially, Force Awakens and Last Jedi are going to be a success, but he says just because they get lots of money does not equal to quality. That's his opinion, and I have to admit it is a good one. But anyway, back to the review. Rey and Luke do their whole master pupil. Luke being not one to teach Rey at all, to eventually warming up to her and deciding to teach her. Similar to Yoda, except Luke was stuck on Dagobah for a while, you know. So that's all he had to do was, and I think Luke won Yoda over much faster than Rey won over Luke. But eventually, it took Rey being drawn to the original text. Now we're not talking data like holocrons. We're not talking like Jedi holocrons or Sith holocrons or whatever. We're talking actual paper books. She finds these old Jedi, the original Jedi texts. It seems that Luke's at the original Jedi and Sith temples. So, if they're changing the lore, then he's not on Titan. If they stick with the lore, he's on Titan. Because my voice that came out as Titan, it's Titan. Tython. Or is it Tyhon? Sorry, it's in the Old Republic. I could Google it right now for my video. Actually, yeah, let's do that right now. Let's see here. Let's open up Google Chrome. Oh, goddammit, my mouse is being a bastard. But yeah, if they're sticking with the expanded universe, if they're bringing it back, then it's Titan. Yeah, I was right. Tython. But yeah, now it's vastly different, but generally, from what I remember the Titan playing on that planet, it generally looks the way it is in, like, you can picture that this is a small island somewhere on Titan. I could picture that. Eventually, though, Luke is like, I will teach you. I'll teach you why also. The way it seems like is that Luke decided to eventually teach her just to show her how pointless it is. Like, to show her, like, why the Jedi have to end. That line was very much early in the movie. And I'm happy that it was in the early in the movie. Too many trailers, like, for example, The Dark Tower, shows you too much of the stuff, like, the good stuff, that happens later on in the movie. What happens with Star Wars is they show you a lot of the earlier stuff with a few end stuff. Oh, well, I'm actually nearly out of my tea. I might have to do this in 2 parts, folks. But I'm definitely doing my videos today because it's still fresh in my mind. But yeah, he starts her training, tells her what happened to Kylo Ren, which was brilliant. You sort of get sympathy for Kylo, not too much. It turns out Kylo and Rey are force bonded together. Similar to those of you that know of Knights of the Old Republic. The second one, and actually the first one, because there was a force bond in both games. So yeah, it's similar to that, where they can talk to each other, they can see each other. But this one was more powerful, to the point where they could actually feel each other at the end, near the end. I thought they were going to go with Return of the Jedi at some point over this, because Rey was being very adamant that Kylo could be saved. So, eventually, Finn and an engineer who caught him trying to desert, called Rose, go onto this criminal town where a bunch of arms dealers live, and they find the hacker and they escape after getting into a lot of trouble. Now, Finn and Rose's situation, it doesn't focus on that. The Last Jedi generally more focuses on Kylo and Rey. Now, eventually, how should I put this? Oh, eventually, Rey tries to turn Kylo. She actually leaves and goes to him. And she tries to turn him. Now, throughout all this, I was sitting in my chair. I was like, "Oh God, maybe I was wrong about the Empire Strikes Back bit," but it definitely seems like they're going to try and pull a Return of the Jedi. They, spoiler alert, they don't, which is brilliant. Instead, Kylo, it looks like he is though. They did. I was sitting in my chair like disappointed at that point. But then they flipped it. I was like, oh wow, this is near the end of the movie. They're pulling a Return of the Jedi. Because you see this badass moment of Kylo and Rey working together after Kylo killed Snoke. That's right, Snoke is dead. He got chopped in half. Again, they were pulling an Emperor Palpatine with where he took Rey's saber, or Luke's saber, and it was sitting next to him on his his chair, as he was as he was watching Kyle. He was using the Force to hold Rey in place as he was sensing Kylo's tensions. He was like, "Ah, you're gonna turn the blade and strike down your enemy." Now Kylo was doing that with both Luke's saber and his own. It's clear that what Kylo intended, like, he outsmarted Snoke because he avoided thinking of Snoke. He seemed to focus only on his enemy. Turns on the saber, it's covered, like, boom. Snoke, it has the blade jammed inside of him. He looks over and then Kylo uses the Force to pull it, completely cutting Snoke in half. And then the honor guards of Snoke begin to fight Kylo and Rey. And it's a badass sequence. But then, again, I was thinking Return of the Jedi. I was wrong. Instead, at the end of it, Kylo tries to convince Rey, like, they need to put everything in the past behind them. Such as the Resistance, the Jedi, the Dark Jedi. He was trying to get her to join him now because the Order is new. It is not of the old world. Of course, she refuses, and they get into a whole, like, force pull fight. over Luke's saber, which then eventually splits it in half. Rey escapes on the Falcon, and Finn and Rose shut down the. They managed to escape after their plan failed, which was to disable a tracker system on the ship that was tracking the Resistance fleet. Sadly, they failed, so the Resistance had to try then get onto a planet that was nearby, which was once a rebel base, which they eventually succeed, but only after taking extreme heavy losses. There's like only a few handful of people left when they touched down on the planet. But yeah. Now, oh, it's a great movie. Again, the end bit felt very much like Empire Strikes Back, except they save it by not. The rebels were not trying to defeat the Empire or stall them. Well, they were trying to stall them, but not for an escape, but so they can send out a distress beacon. No help comes. The rebels are early defeated, except they manage to find a back way out and manage to escape. But only after a brilliant confrontation between Luke and Kylo. Brilliantly enough, though, they kept a lot of Luke's humour. It seems like Luke was sort of channeling his his father at some point. Like, he sort of adopted an Anakin Skywalker of mentality of mocking his opponent or trying to have fun. But yeah, it turns out it was all a Force ghost. He completely trolls Kylo. But yeah, folks, that's as much of the spoilers as I'm going to go into. But it's absolutely amazing. I loved everything about this movie. At the end of the movie, I can see why Mark Hamill's not happy with Disney. I don't know what type of approach they're going to go with in episode 9, but I look forward to seeing it. And I am still curious about who Snoke was. There are some new theories out there. There's 2 that I believe that are very plausible. One, that he was a failed Palpatine clone. The other, that he was an ancient Sith who was trapped in a tomb until the First Order found him. But yeah, folks, that is the end of my review. This movie in general, 10 out of 10. It's a must-see for all Star Wars fans. This is Wolf Ninja signing out. May the Force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.